Live. Okay. What's up, everybody? How is it going? Welcome to the Discord Q&A with me and you. Everyone's here. We're just going to get right into it tonight. And I'm actually going to start this one off with a little different style. I've got a good list of questions here submitted by you guys and some people from Instagram, I think. But I'm actually going to start this by offering an answer to the first 3 questions that I get from the first people that showed up on time. And yes, this will be recorded. Just to let everybody know. Oh yeah, we got Bominos currently typing. Bominos, who are you? Ooh, favorite bouldering grade. Whoa, that is a good question. V8 is my favorite. That is quite loaded. Definitely V8. Gonna go ahead and just say it. I'd say V4 is my second favorite. V8 has been my absolute, by far, highest quantity sent grade in my life on trips. That's just it's challenging, interesting, difficult. It's perfect. And it marked a big evolution of my climbing back in the day. I was stuck at that for quite a while when I was a kid. Dave's got a good one, I know it. I'm psyched on this new opening style. I think I'm going to do this every time. Bominos, who are you? It's okay, you don't have to reveal yourself, but I might just keep saying that. Hey, Jenna. And who's Rustproof? That's a good name. Very good name. Noah, good to see you here. I hope you're feeling better. Noah was a little sick for a couple days. Ryan A, I love your avatar in this, or your picture. I can't quite tell what it is, but it's very colorful. It's playing good tricks on the eyes. Catherine, your avatar is fantastic. That's what I feel like sometimes. When I'm reading all the text throughout the day, I just feel like I'm reading a book, and I love it. Oh man, these questions are going to be in depth. I can tell already. Oh, we got some typers. Okay. Oh, Noah, please tell me no. Sweet cheese, kid. You got it. Everyone's getting sick, man. I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. We got to get you some good sleeping. Favorite bouldering grade? Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with V8. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many, and they're all interesting. They're all good. Okay. If I need to split training, is it okay to strength train in the AM, climb in the evening? I thought it's usually recommended the other way. Dave, it is recommended the other way. That's typically because you want to prioritize your maximal strength and the freshness of your body, both neurologically and physiologically, for the thing that is the highest priority and or requires the most power. Typically, your climbing is going to want to be the thing that you put at the beginning of the day if that's when you feel best. But if this is what works for you, strength training in the AM, climbing in the evening, both for your schedule or really if it's what works best for you and you've noticed good results and you like it, then keep it that way. There's always sports science and then there's Dave science. It's personal science, things you know about yourself. So don't get lost in following what other people say if you know that, even if it is valid, you've got something that works for you based on lots of experience. So we got one more question. Now this one's going to be good. Oh, of course. Yeah, you always got to get it in. And sometimes you got to just deviate from the ideal. Sometimes it works out even better. All right, Jenna's cooking. I know this one's going to be gold. And I'm going to just rattle off. I've got like, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 good questions. We'll see if we get to all of these. But yeah, these are fantastic. Ooh. One of them I actually don't know what that is, but I think I might find out. Oh, that's very curious. Interesting. All right. Jenna, I might come back to this question. Oh, there it is. Boom. How many quality red point burns can you give a project that's about at your limit per session? Oh, this is very dependent on the person, but also far more dependent on the boulder and the tactics employed by the climber. So, there are a lot of components to talk about here. Main thing, an easy one to visualize is skin. If the boulder eats skin and you rip on it, 3 times, try really hard, that might be it for the day. Your body could be great and your skin is thrashed. That you can't go anymore. You got to call it. So it's always going to be based off the weakest link. What is limiting you? If it's a very physical boulder that's on polished river rock, skin's not going to be an issue at all. But your body, if it's big holds, your body's going to probably burn out. I think maybe a good way to think about this question is what's a good indicator as to when quality burns are no longer ideal, like they're not the top end quality. And a good indicator of that is when things are feeling much harder than they were before. If you don't think that this can happen, this session, if you're not pretty much convinced, I definitely can do this thing, even though my body's starting to feel like these moves are starting to feel a little harder, I'm learning the crux a little bit more. You always have to balance that, right? There's learning and then there's physical strength. You start the session, physical strength is at the top, learning's at the bottom, and you have to make sure that as you're learning, you're not losing too much physical strength. The best athletes lose strength very, very slowly by employing better tactics and being strategic. I'm going to take a long rest. I'm going to file that skin, that little bit that's getting frayed, or I'm going to tape up now, learn some more, and then if I need to go for this end, I'll take the tape off. That's I think that's actually one of the bigger differences I've ever seen between intermediate level climbers and then elite level climbers is for some reason, intermediate level climbers are so apprehensive to put tape on their fingers. I will put tape on my fingers sometimes before I even start trying a very sharp boulder. If I don't think that I'm going to flash this thing, I'm going to tape up preemptively, learn it, and then when I want to send it, I'm going to take the tape off, make sure I dry my fingers out, and then get on it. Because if I take 5 tries to learn this thing, and now I'm ready to go for it, I'm warmed up, but now my skin's blown out, there goes my session. Stuff, we can get really into a lot of different aspects of that question. That's a fantastic question, Jenna. But I think maybe we'll save it for the end if people want to learn a little bit more about like personal aspects of that question, maybe for projects they're working or just for different aspects in general. But I'm going to get right into these questions. And the first one that was submitted is you recently posted about repeating climbs you've done as a training tool. Can you elaborate on that? And what I was referring to in my training is basically I repeat anything that I know is high value, that I have room to develop those skills even more. So I talked a little bit about why people think there's a difference between projecting and repeating climbs. But there really is no difference on most projects, because typically on a project you'll be working the moves over and over and over until you learn them, and a lot of the times you may be falling towards the end. That's probably the most common place to be falling on a project is, yes, of course, the crux, but typically that's going to be towards the end because that's when you have the most fatigue. So if you're constantly falling at the end, or you're just repeating moves in general in order to learn them, there's your repeating right there. Projecting is an effective training tool because you're forced to learn new movement that you have not been able to do by doing repetition. But repeating something that you know is challenging, that there is room to improve that skill. It can go from feeling, at 80% of your maximal difficulty, call it an RPE 8, to feeling like a 7. You've made progress. You've improved. The climb has not gotten easier. You have gotten better. And usually you have even a larger margin, because not only have you gotten better, but you've gotten better and the climbs felt easier while you're getting more tired. So it's clear proof that you're getting more skilled. So if you look at what repeating truly is it's guaranteeing that you're going to get better. You've found something that's in the ideal realm of your ability level and what you need to work on, and because it's something that feels hard for you, and you can repeat it and learn it, let your body take in those skills over and over. You don't have to worry about going from climb to climb thinking, is this going to be in the right realm of my my learning ability? Do I need to learn these skills more? That wasn't that challenging. Okay, this one was way too challenging. Instead of hoping you're going to get lucky, you can find a couple of climbs that really are in that perfect location. Like I will go into, right now I use my home wall. I'll set myself something that I know is going to be very technical, very awkward, very challenging, or highly difficult in an aspect of my climbing that I need to get better on. And I will work it, do it, and then I'll repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And it also gives me a really good understanding of what my total load for the session is, because I'm not trying to guess constantly. I'm getting a really good idea of how difficult this move is, and then I'm doing it for a set amount of repetitions. Does this sound a little familiar to you guys? Like almost like your supplemental training plan, which you can reliably see the numbers go up. It's no different. We like to be almost a little bit disorganized in our training because we love the novelty, and there's so many things to get better at. But you can get better at more things faster if you organize it. And then, of course, there are days where you're just doing a bunch of different climbs. Like if you've ever had the ideal circuit, or even like a day like the submax batch where you're doing many different climbs, but you're repeating those each week. So you're refining the skills from session to session, but you're getting a wide variety of skills. So I think that probably covers that question pretty well, but I'll definitely go on to the next one. If you guys have questions on any of these, just ask at the end, and I'm happy to talk more about anything. What's going on with the app? Why is it better than what you had before? The app is aimed to improve a bunch of things. It is going to, one, be a much more organized interface to try to make sessions much easier, faster, smoother. I can use much longer descriptions to fully elaborate on not only what you're doing in the drill, but how you can do it better. So I can include more coaching within the app. I can also link videos and have them play within the app, which is great. And then for me, the biggest benefit is having the ability to see what you guys are writing down on the climbing aspect without having to ask to see your journal. So I ask everyone to keep a journal, and ideally, you would share the important information, and we would work collaboratively to make sure that you are constantly doing the correct training load. Every time I write these plans, I'm writing them based on what our conversations kind of contain, but I'm not able to see exactly how much you're doing in the session. A lot of people don't tell me those things, and a lot of people don't tell me how hard the climb was for them. They might tell me the grade, but I don't know how hard it was for them. So the app is going to be able to collect this information, and then we're going to be able to put it on a graph to really visually see where is your load that you're accumulating based on your reporting. How many attempts did you do? How difficult was it for you? And then we can see across the whole week exactly how much load you're carrying and how much fatigue is accumulating. But also we can talk about your results. You can say, how hard was the session for you? If I know that's a session that shouldn't be very hard for you, but you reported that it was very hard, I now have the ability to ask, hey, I see that session was hard without people having to tell me. So it bridges that communication gap. That's the part I'm the most excited about. And then eventually we're going to be able to take that information and create a bit more of an elaborate graph and then feedback system to the client. So it'll be, we take all of that information and then we can provide alerts. So once we have these trends and we can feed the computer a little bit more information, we'll be able to have the app tell you exactly when you might want to take the next session easy, because the trend seems to be pointing in the direction of you being in serious CNS fatigue, or your fingers are looking like they may be overloaded. Let's take the break before you have a really bad session or possibly get hurt. Or you have been naturally deloading. It's time to go out and perform. So this is something I'm really psyched about. And another great aspect is obviously, instead of having that schedule, just that static schedule, you have everything mapped out on a weekly basis. So you can see the full calendar, and then you can see which days every day type falls on. So and you can also manage it yourself. You can push days forward on the schedule. It's if you don't have a plan on the app yet, the next plan that you do will have it'll be on the app. I've already done, I think now, 10 plans on the app, so it's coming. Next plan to do. And there are also a ton more that I haven't gotten into yet, but there's just a lot to talk about. I could go on and on about this thing, but we're working on a bunch of really cool things, and I'm open to any ideas as well. Dave, absolutely. You're gonna it will ask you for that information. Like, there's conscious session logging, so you can go in and put in any notes that you want, but you can also put it in a log. Like, if it has that drill, it'll have it formatted for that drill. Okay, so next question is, what do you think is the most impactful change to climbing training in the last 5 years? How about the last year? The most impactful change to climbing training in the last 5 years? That's a really good question. I would say the increase in the number of higher quality coaches that have a social media presence or a YouTube presence or any presence in the media. Because there used to be a lot of searching, and people would go on the internet and they'd go to, in my opinion, a lot of unreliable sources or forums, or they'd pick up a book and misinterpret many of the crucial aspects. I'm not talking about going out and doing a drill improperly, like poorly executing a 4x4. That stuff is pretty self-explanatory, and you can find that information, and that will be of equal quality if it's coming from my mouth or you read it on the internet. But it's really the holistic overview that I think a lot of coaches are starting to talk about, like the things that I make the videos of, like the bigger lessons and the things that you should be conscious of how you operate in your training, and other big things that are very important, like your load management and using your RPE as opposed to blindly trusting weights, or even just the fact that you should be using supplemental training to keep your body safe. Warning signs, avoiding making mistakes that other climbers have made. There's just a ton of highly experienced people making very high quality recommendations that, sure, there are some that you might have to ask them about and question before you implement it. But I've seen a lot of stuff that it's just flat out good on at face value. It's correct. It's just a good lesson. And I think that in the last year, maybe the TB2, the Tension Board 2 is an awesome training implement that I think came out maybe last year or the year before. And I think that board does a better job than all the others. I would say the same answer for the last year, but I know that you guys are probably wanting to hear like an implement. I think the unlevel edge was also a fantastic invention that's been brought to people that really helps. I think just really educate people on the fact that your fingers do receive uneven loads in climbing. And there are many people that I know, including myself, that struggle with synovitis if they overload higher angle grips. So that unlevel edge really provides the ability to equally load and train responsibly and consciously, and not just go with the standardized flat edge. Okay, next question. What are my plans for the home wall? Oh man, I've got so many. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I made my home wall a little bit too difficult for sure. It's way too hard. I can't, I only have a handful of easier warm-ups to get going. I do so much of my warm-up actually behind the wall on like the wood. It's hysterical. I traverse back and forth on the beams. And then I get on this 45-degree wall that only has like 20 jugs. So my latest plans are to get more jugs, take off all the tiny holds, and then put the tiny holds back on once I've got all the big jugs in the very small spots. I got very excited when I made this board, and I wanted to really train the things I was weak on, but I realized that I'm going to use this for more than just my limit bouldering sessions, and I definitely need a wider, or not even a wider variety. I have a great variety, but it's just larger holds to also just do more dynamic and creative moves and large moves. So that is my latest plan, and then I need to get some wallpaper in there because it's gross. It was just a raw garage. And then I want some art. I want a lot of art. I want it to be a place of creativity and be inspired every time I step in there. And then start to do a little bit more with climate control, some acoustics for when I shoot videos. And I've got plans for sure. I really need a big fan because it's already getting muggy and hot and I'm losing friction. Okay, here we go. I love this question. Okay. When I'm on a climbing trip, how can I balance sending a high volume of climbs to get a taste of the area while also pushing my limit grade? What should I spend the most time focusing on? And what are some sample week structures of my climbing days versus rest days? Okay, wow. Again, this is depending on the climb type, your skin, your appetite for volume, and your appetite for pushing your limit grade. I think maybe I could give you an example of what I've done in the past that really works for myself and what I typically recommend for people to do. I always ask, what is it that you truly want? And don't just give me an answer right now. You really need to think about what leads you to your most fulfillment. Like, what are you going to be the most fulfilled after the trip, knowing that you did this? How about during the trip? Both of those things are really important. You don't want to go into a trip and follow a plan that you think you should be doing because that's what others have recommended to you, and maybe that's what your friends have done. If it's not what you want, and it doesn't have to be, not what you want even forever, but not what you want right now, then that's not going to be the most enjoyable trip for you. You really need to follow what matters most to you. And when you're on this trip, you should be doing what it is that you know is going to make you happy in terms of how many easy climbs do you want to do for yourself, getting a taste of all the different classics. Is that the experience that you crave? Or is it when you're on a trip, is it getting on that very hard limit boulder that you've always dreamed of getting on, or that looks so cool? Do you love it when you learn moves, could you be happy spending an entire day out not sticking a single move, or maybe just sticking a couple and not even sending? Or is that going to seem like a waste of a day for you right now? It shouldn't. Realistically, you should love climbing, but in the entire experience, but that's so personalized. There's no you should love. I would assume you love to move on rock, learn, push yourself. But we all know that topping out climbs and going through the full experience is fantastic. And getting to do a bunch of different climbs that are all unique and experience their movement and maybe even learn some things is also a beautiful use of a day. And it's also a great way to explore an area and see all the beauty in it. So there's really no right or wrong way. It's just there's a right way for you and your own fulfillment. And then there's probably a wrong way for you, and a way that right now you probably wouldn't love most. So me personally, I need, and also to be able to push myself to my limit grade, I need those days where I'm doing a lot of sub-maximal volume. And it's the way that I'll usually go is depending on how hard that first limit day is. I'll plan out, okay, I know I want to do a bunch of easier climbs on the second day. If that's true, I'm not going to go to war on a limit level project or even, 2 sub-limits, because I know I'm going to be really tired. And sure, could I get up all these easier boulders? Yeah, but that's probably going to put me in a huge deficit energy-wise and skin-wise, and I'm not going to be able to recover in one day. Even on my month-long climbing trips that I've gone on, more than a month, I still need to be extremely conscious of any day out. I can't just, sell. I need to preserve my body, my skin, my fingers, because I don't want to have to deload. And I definitely don't want to have my strength and my power dip, or the skin that I've been building up to start fraying and become weaker and have to wait for very new and therefore weak and not durable skin to grow in, because I know that takes days, maybe even weeks. So I typically like to leave every single day with a margin. And that doesn't mean that every day is a green day, because I'm going to be climbing the next day. But I'd say that that first day would be a very green day if I didn't climb the next day. Because remember, a day becomes green when you start your next session and complete that session, because it totally depends on how much you do. You can turn sessions from before, basically red by what you do afterwards, because you don't allow that session to be something that you recover from and then adapt to. So that second day, I know I'm going to do as much as I can before I feel the feeling that I know myself is something I'm not going to be able to recover from in a day. And I've had times where I do 3-4 days on, and I'm unbelievably productive, but every day I'm only doing, 30% of what I could do, and then need a rest day from. So I'm always leaving a ton of margin in. That way I get to maximize the trip. The biggest mistake people make on trips by far, or even single days out on the weekend, is doing too much. It's not even close to anything else. People get there the first day and they just go crazy. You've got this long list of boulders. The worst thing you can do is have a long list, because a long list, even if you let's say you've got 20 boulders you want to do in this area in a week. Let me tell you right now, you're not going to do all of those if they're anywhere near your limit. It's just not going to happen. You're not accurately taking into account the fatigue and the fact that rest days need to exist. So the best thing I've ever done is when I go on these trips, I create a list of things I'd like to see, and that things I would like to try, and then things I'd like to do and intend on doing. And that things I'd like to do list in a month-long trip is maybe only 10 boulders long, because I can then really strategize and actually get them done, and get them done. Here's another aspect: in great style and feeling strong. I don't want to just desperately claw my way up these things every time. I want to really flow and feel my strength and skill through the whole experience, start to finish. So I go into this trip and I have the things that mean the most to me, and I prioritize those with clear focus. I'm not, going to go do this thing the next day, that thing the next day. No, I'm focused on the highest priority items. I get those done. Then I move to the second tier and then the third tier. And in the meantime, I can have those second days on if that's something I want to do at that point. But I'll do that on climbs that I know will essentially be, 50% or maximal like 60% of the intensity of the previous boulder I did. And then take that rest day, incur like no damage, and just ease into the rest day. Maybe take 2. Heck, I might even take 3 if I know that's what I really need for the best shot at the thing that I want to leave this trip knowing, and I want to grow old knowing that I did the right thing in order to send that boulder that I've been looking forward to doing for the last 17 years or 18 years. That you really have to think about, what do I want most out of the trip? And ask the question I asked myself: would I be happy leaving this trip having only done X? And if talking about this Rocklands trip, if I leave Rocklands having only done El Corazon, the gold boulder this year, I'm happy. I'm fine if I don't do anything else. Been to Rocklands twice. I've done a ton of boulders there. Yeah, I am fine with prioritizing my time there and really making sure that I get that thing done. So I'm going to strategize, and I'm going to know that this is a promise I've made to myself, and I'm going to find a ton of pride in knowing that when I'm there, I use the strategies and keep the discipline that I know will lead me to the best chance of that climb, as opposed to getting emotional and letting emotions run my trip rather than logic, which is what happens. Okay. So now a sample weekly structure of my climbing days versus rest days. I think I kind of gave a good amount of information there. You can have structure of that. You can try to structure the days of a trip and abide by that. That's the best thing to do. But you need to be able to say, I need an extra rest day. And you also need to account for the weather. In many areas, you can't just create a schedule. You have to look at the weather, and sometimes you have to be willing to take a rest day even when the weather's good. And you can't just use the excuse, because I've had people within like the second week of a 3-week trip say, oh man, we had a couple rain days, and then we had 3 days of sunshine in a row. And I just, I saw that there was rain after that, so I just went all out during those 3 days. Sure, that would be a good idea, right, to really utilize the weather window. And you can do that if you keep it to a manageable load. But if you just go all out on those 3 days, acting like, that this is it, this is our last chance to climb, you may be screwing yourself over for the entire last week of the trip. And I've seen that happen multiple times from people. Okay, next question next question. I'm looking at like a bunch of questions, that's why. What are your thoughts on creatine for climbers? Oh yeah, I knew this question was going to come one day. So creatine is, I'm going to throw out a blanket statement right now and just a super easy 1-sentence answer. Creatine is great for people that need power, and not great for people that are already very powerful, especially if they are a sport climber. If you are somebody who needs physical body power, not talking about fingers, although it can help a bit with larger holds, and this person also needs to be able to climb on smaller holds, which is usually what you're going to experience if you're going rock climbing, then creatine is probably for you not going to be the most beneficial, especially if you're somebody who is climbing on particularly small holds for long durations. Creatine helps with short bursts of power. It's very good for recovery. It does add mass to your body in the form of water in your muscles. And so when you are trying to do a move on a smaller hold, you're already not able to use your full body's strength. You're limited by the maximal potential of force that you're able to put through your fingers. That's the equal amount of force that you can use from your arms. So if If you basically can't hold the hold and rip on it with more than, basically looking for the max potential of your physical body, and that's the limiting factor, then you're only going to make it harder for yourself to hold that small hold because you're increasing the mass without increasing the finger strength. So if you are looking to also be a sport climber, you're now going to be carrying more weight up the wall, but you're not seeing any benefits to the muscle's condition. The creatine does not increase capillary density or mitochondrial density, and it does not affect the buffering rate. So if you're looking for more endurance, a better option would be to maybe think about reducing carbs on the couple days, maybe like 2 or 3 days before you go for a highly intense, single pitch route. If that's the goal of being a little bit lighter and just being a little bit more efficient, then maybe you don't want all of that water in your muscles that usually comes from higher carb diets. So creatine's great if you're going on a trip and you're doing a lot of bigger holds, or you just want to do a ton of climbing and you are already great on small holds and you need more power. It can be great for both those things. If you're a competition climber and you are already good on small holds, or you think that the competition is going to feature more explosive movements and you're going to be required to recover very quickly between bouts, then creatine is probably going to be an improvement source for you. Same thing if you're training hard. If you are training hard physically, like if one of your programs is, if we have you're on a power cycle, or you're doing a bit more supplemental training in the postseason or the off season, then maybe creatine could be beneficial. Or even if you're going out to get on a particularly physical boulder, maybe if you want to crush that compression line, that's just all a bunch of slapping big holds and squeezing, you could start taking creatine maybe 5 days before that and see a power boost. You can just take creatine and then stop taking creatine. You don't even need to load it like they say. But you do have to know that you can also see permanent weight gain in the form of larger muscles if you take it for a longer period of time, and you're also increasing the amount that you're eating, which usually is accompanied with creatine use because you're now stronger and you are going to feel the need to, or you're supplementing more exercise. So more exercise will require you then to, or increase your appetite. You will eat to fuel that muscle. And I remember back in the day when I did creatine, I gained about 5 pounds and I felt way more powerful. But when I was limit bouldering, I noticed my grade drop by about a full grade, and I had no idea why. And then I didn't weigh myself all the time back then. I weighed myself, I was 5 pounds heavier, and it was due to muscle that I definitely was not using on smaller holds. So just something to consider. But it is, if you're looking for more power, it is going to give you a ton more power. That is definitely for sure. But do know the potential drawbacks. Okay. This next question is, what do I think about the new Olympic medals being added? I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I had no idea they added Olympic medals. So I'm going to have to immediately after this look this up and ask, definitely asking ChatGPT about this and Google. If you guys know anything about it, definitely let me know at the end. What is the worst injury you've gotten from climbing, and how did you come back from it? That was the next question. Okay. Worst injury that I've gotten from climbing. That is a really good question. As I've had 4 big injuries over the 18 years, all in a very short period when I was overtraining like a pro. I would say the one that impacted my climbing most. This is such a hard question to answer. My goodness. Okay, I'm just going to pick one. I think the worst injury that I've gotten from climbing was when I strained the top of my calf that connected in the back of my knee and then had an ensuing 4 years of tendonitis that I quite honestly neglected and thought that the rehab that I was receiving from a non-climbing PT was going to be enough to fix it. And it absolutely was not. The results were not at all what I was looking for. Then I started working with Dr. Mike, and he fixed it immediately in like 3 months. We completely eradicated it. What I did was actually a lot of what I give you guys in some of your leg training, because I noticed that not only did I heal from this injury, but I improved the ability to keep tension and root through feet by like a factor of 3. So we did a lot of, I basically stopped doing heel hooks on that leg. It's actually crazy. I went on my honeymoon, which was 2 months, and I think it might have been 3 months. I should know that. It was really long. And I came back after all that time, and I had this injury beforehand, but we were doing about 20,000 steps a day. So I got the same injury on the right leg, and it would radiate from the back of my knee through to the front of the knee. The entire knee would feel like it was unstable. 9 out of 10 pain would shoot through the legs if I was toeing in or heel hooking. It was horrible. I felt like an 80-year-old man. And I did a serious bout of leg training. This single leg Romanian deadlift has been my upstream rehab staple that I've kept since then, and it has not come back. So I did a bunch of that, a bunch of eccentrics, some isometrics like the heel hook isometric drill that you guys have definitely had if you've worked with me. And I just stayed disciplined. I didn't do any moves that created pain on the climbing wall. I just did exactly what Mike told me. I stuck to that 3 out of 10 discomfort as a maximum. I did the rehab 3 days a week. I did not miss a session. I crushed sleep. I was taking collagen and gelatin, actually, bovine gelatin, before the sessions, an hour before, so that the tissue could absorb it and increase recovery. And I was just doing everything right, and I made a full recovery within 3 months. And I would say that was the injury that affected me in my climbing the most. I also, a long time ago, blew out my elbow, the collateral ligament right here, and that created a lot of frustration. I went to the same PT who did not do the job that I needed them to do. I just didn't know how to work with climbers, didn't understand the injuries. I think like I was hoping they would. And so I had that. I had the A2 and the lumbrical in the same exact injury, like same go pulling. I injured on this ring finger, and then the knee, and one more. I must be forgetting the. How do you forget a massive injury? It'll come to me. Don't worry. My pinky. Messed up. I tore the A2 on this pinky. But I think that the knee was the most debilitating. Okay, next question. What is your favorite board to climb on? Hands down, my favorite board by far is the TB1. You can throw hate at that board. That's totally fine. I think it's the most badass board. I think it is just so stiff. It doesn't care. It's so good about, it's just such a great training tool. I think it has a perfect blend of, shout out TB1. It's definitely, I think it's the only board that truly does small crimps right. I think that, the Moon board has like a couple small crimps. Unfortunate part is if you hit them wrong, you will pop a pulley. The Moon board is the highest injury rated training tool in all of climbing, which stinks because the Moon board is awesome. It's really fun. Yeah, dude, that rounded 8mm, Noah, so good. Even the in-cuts, if you've got the skin for them, they're sick. And the eggs, and if you're looking to get better at hard rock climbing, that's the ultimate training tool. It has the perfect mix of grips. The setting is hard. You need to keep serious tension. It's powerful. It's technical. It's physical. You don't lose your skin if you're climbing on, the smoother holds. It's not like the polyurethane, like the Moonboard takes your skin. Even the TB1 with the new polyurethane, it is nice and smooth, but I just don't think it has the same. There are no very small edges, and I miss that. But TB2 is awesome too. Yeah. Okay. Last question here. Got the top 3 mistakes. What are the top 3 mistakes that climbers make in their training? All right. Number 1, by far, is they do too much climbing. It's not their fault. Climbing's too much fun. It's climbing's fault. Climbing shouldn't be so damn fun. It's not only that, it's no other form of training other than maybe weightlifting can you send something. It's not like in basketball when you're taking free throw shots to train your free throw. Are you ever going to send the free throw? It's not like you did your 1,000 shots and then at the end of the session you're like, oh, but I feel like I'm so close. If I just give it maybe like one more try and then one more try and then one more try, I'll send it. I'll finally send the free throw and I'll be able to post online that I sent the free throw or tell my friends I sent the free throw or just myself know I sent the free throw. No, dude. It's not, you're not training to perform. And I think a couple of you here have learned that there's performing and then there's training. And the question was 3 mistakes that climbers make in their training. So if you're training, you're not trying to perform. You're not trying to hit a PR. If that's not what's written down on that paper, don't do it. If you know that there is, and this goes for me too. Back in the day, I used to train under a coach. If a coach that knows you better than you know you has written out a plan for you, and you've invested your time, your money, your energy into this training program, which another word for that is just a series of days in which you operate according to a plan based on a promise that you made to yourself. That's all it is. That's what a program is. And if you're going in to do that work and then you do more work is going to be worse. And what's even worse than that is doing more work and then not measuring it or not telling somebody, the coach, that you did more work. Because then the assumption is they did what they're supposed to. Now, as they move forward, the programmed volume and load in front of them is appropriate. But it's no longer appropriate because you did more than you're supposed to. And people that don't have a coach, don't have that accountability system, are, they're up at their own whim. They did too much. And if they go in to do the same session, just hopeful that it goes according to plan, they're going to be woefully wrong. I'd say the second largest mistake that climbers make in their training is they spend about 95% of their mental energy and focus on the things that they do in the gym, which is about, what you do in the gym is probably a solid 40% of what accounts for your improvements and your improvement rate. Mental aspects, which are the most underutilized part of any sport, other than the upper end elite, hence why they became the upper end elite, is usually, I would say, about the other 40, 45. And then, of course, sleep, and then just general load management is that the other part of the equation. And then maybe the other 2-3% is, nutrition, hydration, all of the other things that are important, but really it's the other things. So it's your mind controls all of that, your mind itself, it's what is the difference between people? Sure, there's genetics, right? But we see people at the top with wildly different genetics. Anybody can get to the top. It's just luck of the draw, not even luck of the draw. It's what brain do you have in your head? Because the brain is responsible for all of the decisions you make, and any decision is really what results in any outcome. If I decide to do another rep, if I decide to, Just watch another YouTube video for 30 minutes instead of going to sleep. You make that sacrifice. You could be recovering and getting better faster, but you took, temporary entertainment over that. Look at your habits. This is really what I'm trying to say is, climbers make the biggest mistake on never addressing the true things that are limiting them, which is harder to do because you have to be honest with yourself and first admit, I'm just not doing the life that I want to do. I'm doing something different, and I see that it's painful to change, and I don't think I'm ready to do that. But you're never going to be ready until it gets extremely painful, and then you will make a change. If most of you or most climbers, you guys have reached a boiling point, right? You've gotten to the point where, I'm not making progress anymore. I'm really frustrated about that. Or I know I could be doing more. I'm going to reach out to a coach. God damn it. That's it. I've had it. But still, that's one decision. I reached out to a coach. Beyond that, there are so many different levels as to how well you can do anything. I'm doing the training plan and I'm getting in the sessions consistently. That's great. You're above the line. You're actually benefiting. There are a lot of people that get the plan and then they don't do them consistently, don't communicate, and they operate below the line. They don't actually improve. You can have the best training plan in your hand, but if you're not looking at it, you're doing whatever you want, you're never going to get better. You could get very lucky, but it's probably not going to happen, not nearly at the potential rate it could. So it's really I really encourage you guys to, after this call, write down a short list. I do this every month. Write down a list of the things that I would love to improve. That's step one. And then the real step that separates people that want it or people just that like the idea of wanting it is write out the list of the steps you need to take to ensure that gets done. And the real list, the things you actually have to do. And then set up a list if you need to, or a tracking system for keeping yourself accountable and logging it. I don't know if you guys have seen the sleep study that I'm doing for myself, taking all of the information from this Oura ring that I sleep with every night, and then I want to get better sleep. I've struggled with sleep my whole life, so I hired two professional, one a psychiatrist to help me with this, and also a sleep expert. I bought the masterclass on sleep. I've been doing this sleep study. Over the course of the last month, I've quit caffeine. Tomorrow is actually my last day. I'm taking 0.25 fluid ounces. I've completely redesigned the last hour of my night. I've changed the timing of my meals throughout the day, changed a little bit the nutrition of what I'm eating, the timing of other supplements that I'm taking. I've employed relaxation techniques at night, like meditation, getting back into my artwork, and I'm really making the change because for a while I was doing the things that I thought that were going to lead to these changes, but they weren't working, and I was not going to just keep doing things that are not working, thinking that maybe they will. I wanted to find out what is the true reason that this thing that's by far the biggest impactor in my recovery, which is really my biggest limiter. I can nail the session. I can do the right volume. I can do the right load. I have the discipline. I have all those systems that I've set up, just like the sleep study. I've studied all the reasons why I don't succeed in those. And I put in many systems in place to ensure that I do exactly what I know I need to do based on so much data reflection. And then my sleep would then screw me over because I did it all right, but I got another bad night of sleep. 3 in a row. Man, I'm feeling wrecked. I was tired of it. It got to the point where it was too painful to not make this change. So I'm not even going to take this any further. This is just, this is kind of like life. You can have the life that you want. You just have to have the energy or the willpower. It really just has to get painful enough, or you have to have a strong enough why to make that change. Sorry if I'm preaching a little bit, but I like you guys. And yeah, I will give a third mistake actually. The third mistake that climbers make, I would say, is not spending enough time skill practicing. It's very easy to go to the board, but people don't actively reflect on what it is that they truly need, and then take the proper steps, even within the plan, to really make sure that I'm training the skills that I need in the right way, and I'm giving those the credit that they're due, and that's in alignment with my goals. It's really funny. I just talked to a guy. Literally, I just left the gym. I had a session, and I came here. And the last conversation I had was with this guy that I'm friends with there. And I was asking him, what are you training for this season? And this guy, I always see him on the board. He's always on the moon board. And he told me, well, I'm training for black boulder, which is an open hand sloper pinch compression boulder. He's climbing about V7. He's climbing like 7B, 7B plus on the moon board, which is V7, V8. He's been working black boulder for a couple seasons. It's a V5. He also wants to do this other thing called leading the march, which is a big shouldery move into a big flat shelf, and it's very powerful in the body. And then you have to get a high left foot and then crank into it and roll in. It's just shouldery and technical and based on basically your mobility and your shoulder power. That's V6. And then the last boulder was a very steep compression line. So I always see him on the board, and it was just interesting to me that someone who wants to and has been spending a lot of their time projecting things that are slopey and compression, but he's not training those styles at all. He told me he wants to be better at, he also wants to be better at crimping on overhangs. And so it seems like, getting on the moon board would be a great use of his time, because he also wants to get better at crimping on overhangs. But crimping on overhangs and crimping on a flat wall, if the crux is the crimping, why don't you just crimp and train that grip and then use all of your other time and energy in the physical body and your other grip positions, getting better on those other styles? So I think constantly auditing. People don't really take an audit and then make changes based on frequent reflection in their training. So if I were that climber, I would change what I'm doing. If I love moonboarding, sure, I can keep that in, and maybe I can even do a boulder every session. But then the other 75% of my session should be spent targeting, compression climbing skills and mimicking the movements of that other boulder, leading the march with the shoulder and the mobility. And you can replicate that stuff pretty easily, and you've got an entire gym. The gym is much more like outdoors than the board is, unless you only want to climb flat walls with small holds and big, powerful movements. So that's my spiel. That's the last question I've got. If anyone has a question on any of that or has another question that they want to ask, please let her rip. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Not all at once. It can be about anything. It can also be about me personally. Like, why do I look like this? I'll tell you. It wasn't my choice. Okay. How do you go about picking appropriate projects? Catherine, tell me a little bit more about what appropriate means to you. Because if you want to do it, that's a great project. I could maybe see that the project needs to align with your goals, your longer term goals. That could be a great way to think about it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Catherine, I'm just. I see you're typing. Catherine asked, "How do you go about picking appropriate projects?" The reason I asked why her to define what appropriate means is because if like I just said, is if you want to do something, project it. There's no wrong climb to pick as a project. If you were then going out and maybe picking climbs that you maybe were way too outside of the realm of possibility, and your goal was to be able to pick a project that you could do in a couple of sessions, then I could see that maybe not being appropriate. That feel too hard for the time frame that I have. Yes. Okay. Then I'd ask again, is the goal to send the boulder, or is the goal to climb on the rock and learn the movements and enjoy the flow? Because if the goal is to complete the project, then we could keep going forward. Okay, perfect. So then if you're thinking of sending and that's what you want to do, then you just have to get on the climb and feel it and think to yourself, really be honest. Do you think that you can learn those moves given the resources that you have, given the time that you have? You do have to experience it. You do have to look at the strategies. Maybe if you have somebody there that knows the movement, that knows the climb, or adequate amount of beta videos. If you're willing to put in the time to try other options, other betas. If it's a grade maybe that you are either well experienced on and know that you've been able to historically do those difficult of climbs in that time frame, or if it's something above your level, the more up at your limit it is, the less of a guarantee it can be, and the less you probably know about how long something could take you. But yeah, I hope that answers it. There's really there's no formula as to go about picking an appropriate project other than, follow what you really want to have in the experience. If you want to send, then maybe don't pick something at that upper end limit. But if you want it to be upper end and be getting to the next level can be difficult. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Jenna, have you noticed that eliminating caffeine has really helped with sleep and energy levels throughout the day? Absolutely. Yeah, there's been a almost direct correlation to the average hours that I get and also the sleep quality by how many fluid ounces I'm drinking. I also had 2 days in there where I had, one was a podcast before, and one was when my friends came over and I wanted to have a great power training session with them. So I went back up in my caffeine. And both of those nights, I think it was because my tolerance came a little bit down, both of those nights were far lower in quality than the other nights. So that was pretty cool to see the direct correlation there. Energy levels have been pretty balanced. I also have been delaying which was huge. Like when I started doing this was actually even more impactful, was delaying the caffeine intake to 60 to 90 minutes. I've actually just been doing 90 after I wake up. That's just like cortisol release, which I didn't know I was shooting myself in the foot, and that was throwing off my entire cortisol cycle throughout my entire day. That was pretty night and day, that I was actually getting very totally balanced energy throughout the day. No crash from that caffeine that I took in the morning when I first wake up. Also, I was drinking caffeine on an empty stomach, which is why I had stomach issues, if any of you were following that saga. But yeah, big difference in delaying and reducing. Okay. If the gym doesn't set hard enough boulders, what do you do other than grind on the board? Have you ever thought about skipping holds or making up your own climbs? It's a really easy and fun way to make the climbs way harder, uniquely challenging. You can even add in moves at the start of the boulders or at the end of them. That you've got a ton. Yeah, Kyle, definitely a great problem to have, but you've got a ton of options, Kyle. That's like, there are two ways that climbs get harder. That's it. The holds either get worse or they get further apart. If you choose let's say you've got the green V10 and there's that purple foothold right next to the green V10's crimp, and it's just a little bit worse, use that purple foot. You do have to swallow the pill that it's not a purely clean line that that guy with the beanie, the root setter, made, that you're actually having to make it. That can sometimes be unmotivating because it's not a beautiful green hold line. But if you look past that and you just climb the fake rock holds on the wall and make it a little harder, you'll definitely be able to get great training in. Okay. How do you approach your deload between seasons? Example, duration. You approach your deload between seasons. I usually do a week, personally. I have found that if I do that week and I go into the next training cycle as almost like you're never going from crushing hard in the gym, deload, right back to crushing yourself. It's always a deload and then a reload for that first week. Just like I program you guys. Usually that week plus like the easing in to adapt to the new stimulus is enough for me. That's just what I've personally found works best for my training. It totally depends on your body and what you're feeling. I have in the past had to extend the deloads a little bit too. If I'm really feeling fatigued, like I came back from Rocklands 2 years ago and I was just wrecked. I thought that 7 days was going to be enough. I needed a full 14 days to get back to where I was. You just have to play it by how you're feeling. But give yourself a good framework, and again, look back at each time you do that and just look at how you progressed in your training and what you felt like coming back in. What were your initial starting numbers after a week, after a week and a half, after 2 weeks? If you notice that one is better than the other, try that one for a little bit. Okay. How do we manage the power down dip from peak when the purpose of a training session is inherently higher volume, such as with power endurance or endurance training? So when you have that power down, it's going to be different, Chris, than a strictly power program. Power training or max strength training is really what that 95% mark is referring to. You've all probably felt when you do endurance, power endurance, and especially endurance, that you're going far beyond 95%. Power endurance, you might knock yourself down to 80. Endurance training, you might knock yourself down to 70 or even 60. But you're looking for a totally different adaptation. You're not sending a very strong neurological signal. And that's what's really different between that max strength and really power, and then power endurance and endurance. When you're training power or power endurance and you send that, you add fatigue, you're basically telling the muscle, hey, I know I just hit you so hard and I know you're going to need recovery from that, and you got these strong neurological signals, but hold on, actually don't make those neurological signals. We've got a way bigger issue, muscle. We've got all this accumulated lactate now, and we've got this, we have such high acidity levels. We need to flush that out, dude. And that has happened repeatedly. Like that has now been 3 sessions of this. Dude, muscle, we got to get more mitochondria in here. We got to get more capillaries. They got to move this stuff out faster. Don't make those other adaptations. That takes energy. That's not what we're trying to do right now. We have way bigger issues. So you override those signals, but they don't even, you're going to keep doing that. You're going to keep knocking yourself down further. You're not going to get better at this stuff, and you're going to accumulate an excess. This other fatigue that you're building is in excess. It's basically 2 different stimulus, and it's too much. So when you're doing a power endurance, if it's programmed appropriately, you have enough of a conditioning signal, and it will basically require the muscle to, accumulate that lactate, which is right there. Acidity goes up, you're not going to be able to fire neurological signals as efficiently, and you're going to feel powered down. And that's what's happening. It's not like when you're doing max strength and you're just, draining all of the glycogen and creatine out, and you're also quite literally creating micro tears in the muscle fibers. You're sending a different signal. You can and do need to send a heavier signal to accumulate that lactate and fatigue the muscle in order to get those signals. With endurance training, it's even more so in that case. So you do need to go a little further, but it's different. That's why, a power session when I used to train power, I could do a 30-minute session and have it be the best possible power training ever. Warm up the fingers, do, 10 to 20 hits on the campus board, done, over, go home, save it for tomorrow or the next day. But if I'm doing an endurance session, I used to have endurance sessions that would last 5 hours, just on the wall, over and over and over and over. But, it started at 2 or 3 and it just grew with volume over time. So it's very different. Okay. Yeah, in the case, here we go. Okay. Oh, Dana, great question. How are you tracking the data on your sleep quality? I can send you the sheet that I create. I can actually, I'm going to just, actually that's very personal data. I'm going to drop it in. But I can tell you the fields that I use, or they're right here with all of my main sheets. So we've got the date, the time that I am in bed in total, how much time did I spend in bed, the time to sleep, the time to wake, the hours of sleep in total, and then I color code everything to indicate, just have a visual representation of how high quality it was, bright green, and then all the way down to obviously red. Then the last meal timing and the type, my readiness score that I had on this Oura Ring, the sleep score, the efficiency percentage of my sleep, the total amount of deep sleep and REM sleep, and the total amount of light sleep, the total amount of time that I was awake in the middle of the night. Ooh, I should start counting how many awakenings I had. Lowest heart rate in beats per minute, and then my average HRV, which is basically, your recoverability. And then I have my notes on each day, and each note is usually about a paragraph or two on the day and the night. It takes me like 3 to 4 minutes to write it. All of this logging takes me 5 to 6 minutes, and it's yielded incredible results. It's probably the highest yielding 5 minutes or 6 minutes of my day that's had the most dramatic effect on quality of life. So I'm definitely going to keep investing those 5 to 6 minutes. And that's literally all it takes, guys, to fix like some of the biggest problems in your life. 5 to 6 minutes. The trick is you have to do it every day, and that's hard. You can miss a day. I actually have 2 days I forgot to wear the ring. Still wrote my notes. But yeah, never miss 2. That's a big atomic habit. Great book by James Cleary, by the way. Okay. Noah. Gyms can just be mid. I know gyms that don't set harder than V7. Yeah, it sucks. Does the 95% dip refer to finger strength only or also includes upper body? I honestly usually like to have that just be finger strength. But if you notice, this is a big thing with any training, is if you're noticing that form is degrading, you're done with that set. You're done with that attempt. So if you're noticing that when you're climbing and you're doing something that you should be able to do, like you know that your quality should be higher than this, and you're just feeling fried, and your goal, like your muscles are just feeling fatigue, and that's your limiting factor, and that's what's limiting you now throughout the session. Like that's true with many people. You have to go until you're tired. Maybe you shouldn't push past, muscles are a little bit different. That I would say if you're looking for max strength in the muscles, because we are usually relying on more robust structures rather than just the very small structures that are in our fingers, you could probably still be effective up to the 90%. Also depends on how intense it is. Like if you're trying something very, very intense and you're below 95%, yeah, you're done. Like If it's at your limit and you're not able to do it with good form or do it at all and not able to match previous levels, stop trying to do something. If you're not at 95%, stop trying to do something above not 95%. If you're at 90, you could probably get away with doing something at 85% if you can still do it with high quality form. But it's also, you're trying to look at, when is the next day you're training? Like if I go to 80% physically, will I be able to recover back up to 100 by my training session tomorrow or the day after that? You have to really think and again, look at your trends and try it out and then see, what do I historically recover to? How is my second session usually? Oh, thanks, Dana. I'm trying. We got more FAQs dropping in there. It's the FAQs is really just like what people always text me and ask. Because I always want to like copy and paste sometimes from one person to another, but everyone asks, like when they ask the same thing, sometimes it's just like, yeah, like, dude, this is the answer. I already spent like 10 minutes writing up and like finding the links for this. Here you go. So I think just having like a piece of paper to give everything is way better. You also don't have to wait on my response, which is cool. What else you guys got? Ooh, ML Jesus. What a good name. Or is it Geezes? MLG Eases? Oh, I'll never know. Because you really can't tell me either. Nice. Thank you for that. Ooh, weighted pull-ups are really good for when you want to get good at pulling up, and then lock-offs are really good for when you want to get better at locking off. And I don't mean that to be to mock you at all. That's literally what it is. It's your joint angles are going to get better at the angle that you train it at. So if you're training in this very high lock-off, then you'll get really good at that high lock off. People always say, I really want to get better at, locking off and doing a huge reach. And I'll always ask them, well, how often do you train that? And they say, never. It's really hard to get good at something that you never do. That's really hard to do. I don't know almost anyone that does that. But if you want to get better at one thing, train that. If you want to get better at another thing, train that. If you want to get better at both, train them both. And usually with these, it's better to get better to train them at different times, because that concentric loading combined with isometric loading can be really intense. You could maybe sustain it for a cycle depending on how trained the athlete is. I've personally done that, but it can usually lead to an elbow injury. Or shoulder irritation. But the weighted pull-ups are really good also for being able to heavily load more of the muscles, because you are just straight up moving through a wider range of motion. But again, we do a lot of this, sure, in climbing, like pulling up and then going dynamically, but it's not often that we can't get the distance to the hold to reach it and grab it. It's usually that our movement mechanics aren't proper enough, or we're not positioning well during the movement, or let's be honest, our fingers are not strong enough to support the movement and hit it. I'll always ask people, like when they tell me I'm really not great at big moves, it's my arms. My arms need to get stronger. If they're saying that, sure, totally. It's probably true that their arms are not very strong. But I'll ask them, can you do that move if they were jugs that you're describing? Like total handlebars. Yeah, I could. Okay, so then it's not a physical thing. It's not a muscular thing. Sounds like it's a finger issue. Because I know some people that cannot do a pull-up with more than 25 pounds added. And those people climb V15. So as long as you can do a pull-up and then throw yourself at full maximum reach on a jug, you just need stronger fingers. But if you can't lock off and hold in many positions, it's going to be an issue. And I'm not saying that getting stronger is not helpful. saying if you're doing these things, you should know what your true limiting factor is and what the motivation is. But you can never be too strong and never be too powerful, but you can skew your training and your energy towards the wrong place. How much do I think that finger strength is really the limiting factor at higher levels? It's basically the main limiting factor. It's that and technical skill. That's it. If finger strength, and finger strength is the best technical skill to gain. And I say that finger strength is the best technical skill to gain because it's basically the only other factor that you need to get up boulders. If you look at any climb, you'll look at it and say, okay, you really need strong fingers or endurance, and then you need the technical skills. Well, guess what? The stronger fingers you need, the less technical skills you need. If a climb is a V, let's say 10, you could say that V10 is, you need 10 points to get up that, right? If you're, and that's in sum. If your finger strength is a 5 and your technical skill is a 5, then you'll be able to get up that boulder. It might be at limit because you're matched, you're a 10 and a 10, but you can get up that boulder. It's just gonna be hard. Now, if you have your fingers at a 9 and your technique's only like a 2 or 3, you have an 11 or a 12. You have a margin over this climb. You're gonna be able to own those holds so well that your feet can cut, you can slip, you can climb it so poorly, but it feels like you're holding jugs. It's like, have you ever campused a boulder? Like a V0, 1, or 2? It's what it feels like for people with crazy strong fingers. I've seen it. I've seen people campus my project with pretty strong fingers. So I know it works. But it depends on the climb. If you have a climb that's, you're basically holding a big sloping shelf and you've got toe hooks on the other side they're the only thing holding you on, and then you need to do a tricky foot release, then it doesn't matter how strong your fingers are. If you let go with that, you're gone. Sure, you could maybe have your finger score be like a 50, and if your technique's only like a 5, but that skill requires a 5, maybe you could hold the swing and keep it. But if that skill requires a 6 and you're at a 5 on it, doesn't matter how strong your fingers are. There's a minimum requirement of technical skill that's baked into this climb. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Is it worth doing specific finger training at the cost of climbing volume? That's a good question. Luckily, climbing on bad holds is specific finger training. If you're climbing on holds that are the type of grip type that you want to get better at, there are about 1,000 people or a million people out there that just rock climb. That's it. And most of you got to where you are now just rock climbing. And if the holds keep getting worse and you keep doing the right things, you will continuously get stronger. Now, if you don't have a lot of time or you want to speed up the process potentially of a grip type or multiple grip types, then you could do more measurable, calculated, progressive loading in those joints. So is it worth doing specific finger training at the cost of climbing volume? Depends on where you're going to see the most, it depends on how great your technical skill set is. If you are, if you're on the opposite end, right? Like your skill set, you're trying to break into V11. Your skill set is like a 9, but your finger strength is like a 1. Then you should definitely do some specific or more finger strength training than your technical skill training, because right now, if your finger strength is so low, you're going to move up that stat faster. It's just like when you're doing an RPG game, like a role-playing game, and your total level is, let's say it's like a 50, but you need your magic, which is at a 98. It would have to go up to a 99 to move you up to a 51. And that 98 to 99, if the highest level is 100, man, that could take 2 weeks of just working on magic. But if your attack, like your physical attack, is only at like a 20, you could get that up to a 25 in like a day, and that'll move you up to a 51. So it's the same thing with your finger training. If you know you have big gains to make there, do those. And if that's where you can see the fastest results and that's where you are lagging behind, then yeah, I wouldn't program more finger strength training into someone that tells me they can one arm hang the Beastmaker with 20 pounds extra and they're climbing V8. Yeah, that person's already got finger strength that is enough for climbing V16, and they don't need any more of that right now. They definitely need all the time they can get training technique. So it's just a opportunity cost thing. When you hyper-focus on a single technique drill to practice during your warm-up drill, do you try to stick with the same one for a certain number of sessions, or do you switch around? Also, not being able to do a weighted pull-up plus 25 pounds at V15 is kind of mind-blowing, unless I heard that wrong. Thanks for your thoughts on that one. Yeah, no, you heard that right, 100%. Now, it's actually, it's very low, but we've got, so the same one. Okay. No, I definitely, I oscillate through and just cycle through all of them, all 9. I just continue. I've always done it. I know that I'm always refining the 9 crucial aspects of technique. I think like the fundamentals, and that's just making sure they're polished. And as I'm getting more and more experiences on different climbs, they're always fresh. I'm basically getting all of those in about 3 weeks. So I'm really getting a great frequency throughout the whole year. Every year I'm probably getting every single one of those where I'm devoting my focus to that skill, 30 times, 40 times. So it's, that's way too high. Sorry, definitely not that high. 20 times. Did my math wrong. But yeah, I think it's very important to switch around. If you have one that's really lagging, like, I've been doing this 18 years. I've always focused on being well-rounded. So I go through equally. But if anyone, if your drop knees stink and you're really good at all the other things, maybe you should do drop knees twice and then do a different one. Do drop knees twice, do a different one, and keep doing that until it goes up to a level that you're happy with. That's able to then be cycled in regularly. How much do you value off-the-wall weight training? I value it very highly. I think that off-the-wall weight training is a fantastic way to get in. It's if you have the time, and if you don't have the time and you don't have the skin or the finger strength at the end of your sessions, if that's the way that you're programming your training, then I think off-the-wall training is potentially the most time-effective way to guarantee progression. It's also a way that you can load muscles that you can't load in climbing that are responsible for creating a more injury-resilient body. Like, it's virtually impossible to, on the climbing wall, do a lateral raise or even do a full range of motion external rotation. It's hard when you're climbing to go through a full range of motion on things, usually because you're working with a prefabricated climbing wall in front of you. But if you want to get really good, like for many people that they have time, they have a lot of time, and they want to get better at locking off, or they want better pull strength, I'll just give them campusing on jugs. I'll give them lock off drills, and I'll do that across multiple angles. I'll even give them drills where they have to cut feet, put their feet on, hover it in front of a foothold, hold it, and then place it to train core. Or I've given people mantling and pressing workouts where they just go around the gym and do a bunch of different mantles and presses for a certain amount of time. Do a press every minute on the minute. Try to do it up, try to do it down. The problem with that is that The problem with that is that, oh, by the way, that was my alarm to stop looking at screens so that I can, so you guys are interrupting my no screen time, but it's good. It's you guys, so it's okay. The only problem with that is that you're not measurably, loading the muscle. You don't know how much weight's going through the muscle. You don't know if I'm favoring the right arm because that mantle was a little bit more right forcing and left. You can create imbalances if you're doing things that are unequal over and over. So it's just about being able to have reliability, which is huge in progressive loading, and measurability. So that is, this was so awesome. You guys asked like actually the best questions I think I've ever been asked in a Q&A of any format over the years. And also some of my favorite people are here. Really happy you guys came. And I'm just really, really psyched to always answer your guys' questions and be able to help. If you guys have any other ones, obviously you've got my number. Just text me. I'd seriously love to keep answering questions through the text and just keep the conversation going. Sorry if it's been said. Are the FAQs posted somewhere? Dave, we sent it in an email. If you didn't receive the email, just text me because I actually don't know which. Does your last name start with an S, Dave? If it does, then I know who you are. Okay, Dave, I'll text you the FAQs. All right. Oh, Keely might know. It's also posted. There we go. There it is. Yeah, if you look on the left, Dave, there it is. Cool. Okay, guys, thank you. I will see you guys soon. We'll do another one of these in 2 weeks. It'll be a presentation of a topic. In the meantime, definitely hook it up with some questions on the forum. But have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks for coming. Bye, guys.